Thank you so much for joining us here on An Hour to Give. I'm Sam Laprade, and this week we're featuring the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Ottawa Chapter. You may not even have known that we had an association. Well, Chelsea McClellan's here to tell us all about it. Hello, Chelsea. How are you?
Hi, Sam. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I know you wear a lot of different hats. Let's start with your daytime hat. Tell me a little bit about what you do for work in the fundraising world.
Yeah, so I'm the private fundraising lead for Nutrition International. They are an international nutrition organization.
That keeps you busy, obviously.
Yeah, plenty busy.
Absolutely. And you still have time for AFP Ottawa and all the great work that's being done with this association. So for those that are not familiar, we sometimes refer to the Association of Fundraising Professionals as AFP. That's kind of our little short version of it. But start at the front. Tell us what this organization does.
Yeah, absolutely. So AFP Ottawa is a chapter that's a part of a global network of fundraising professionals. And so no matter if it's happening at the local level, the national level with AFP Canada, or the global level with AFP Global, really what our mission is to empower individual fundraisers and their organizations. And we do that through a variety of different means, through events, through networking, through research and advocacy, really just in the pursuit of supporting the sector.
Amazing. And I've been a member for a very long time, a very proud member.
Yeah, of course.
Some people don't realize that, yes, I do broadcasting, but I'm also a fundraising professional, raised lots of money in this community and, of course, lots of money at a national level as well. So so I think people sometimes are a little bit, sort of not confused, but just kind of really trying to understand why we would all get together. Tell us what the benefits are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of benefits when we combine forces as part of an association like ours. And it's because it helps us be stronger. It helps us be stronger as individuals. We get to benefit from the learnings and the knowledge from our colleagues, but it also helps us be stronger as a sector too. And so it amplifies the foresight we have whenever we're speaking to governments about issues that are relevant to our sector, like the alternative minimum tax, different issues like that. And it helps us strengthen our voice when we're speaking to the media, and it gives us a unified representation.
And I think people are very surprised. 2 million people in this country work, over 2 million people work in the nonprofit, the charitable sector. Lots of money being raised, over, last time I heard, about over $116 billion. I mean, this is not small money. It's not just a tiny piece of this economy. It's a really important piece. 8.6% of the GDP. I mean, this is a sector that really needs the attention that AFP gives it. That advocacy work is so key, which is obviously a really important piece. You mentioned a couple of the policies that government are working on, how that's going to affect fundraising. But it'd be really hard for one little charity to put up their hand and say, I don't believe that policy should be going through. They wouldn't probably get listened to. But as a force, and a force for good, it really is doing some good work.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, as a chapter, we don't have the capacity to do all of that work. We are really zeroed in on supporting our local members with value and opportunities for them to flourish in the localized context. But to be able to think that we would be able to have to tackle those big, broader issues such as advocacy is definitely quite a bit of work. And so it's great that when we work in tandem with AFP Canada, who really takes charge and leads that advocacy effort, we're in such good hands with them. And they are thinking more broadly as a country and what our sector needs and the challenges that we're going for. And they help advocate for what's important for us.
For sure. And so many great opportunities. We're going to learn a little bit later about some of the education opportunities, some of the ways to get involved. But I'll tell you, as someone that's been a member for a very long time, the fellowship, the connection, the relationships, all of that has really bolstered me as a fundraiser. I mean, it really has been kind of that piece that I don't think I ever expected when I entered the sector.
Yeah, and we're so diverse too in terms of what we're bringing to the table and the types of organizations that we work with and the types of jobs that we do. And it's so beneficial to really benefit from the learned experience that other fundraisers have. And it just adds a lot of value to what we can bring to the table to our own organization.
So inspire somebody if they've never been involved in fundraising before, they might be thinking about a little bit of a change. You're sending them maybe to the website to kind of poke around and see what's being done there. But inspire them to maybe look at this sector as a way of maybe having another career.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is that fundraising is a really common second career. We see that a lot, and people probably don't realize that components of fundraising is probably what they're doing in their current jobs already.
It's true.
And so it's not so much about knocking on doors and asking for little bits of money, but there's a lot involved, and it's really diverse in terms of the types of work that's involved in fundraising and the types of organizations that you can work with. The reason I got involved to begin with out of school is because I wanted to combine work with something that I deeply cared about. And so working in fundraising is a really great opportunity to find your passion and to do work in pursuit of that. And there is so many important causes out in the world and just in Ottawa too that really would benefit from a skilled person who's interested and willing to help support that type of work.
Amazing. And when you think about different networking opportunities, you get the calendar from from the association, the local chapter here, the Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa Chapter, and you see those networking opportunities, those education opportunities. I found that throughout the year they were these little boosts that it would give me. I'd be like, I'm off to see some of my fundraising friends, and the language between all of us, and it would be, I might go to a networking event and pull you aside, Chelsea, and go, I got to be honest with you, I'm having a bit of a rough week. I was working on something and it didn't kind of go the way I thought, and help me out a little bit. I don't think unless you're in the work you really understand. Our spouses don't get it, our friends don't get it, but our fundraising friends get it.
Yeah, and I have found family in the fundraising sector. And the types of people that I work with have, across all the organizations I've been a part of, have been a part of my life and all of my upcoming milestones. And because I think our work is so deeply tied to our own personal character and the things that we care about and the issues that are important to us, it means that I think we introduce a little bit more personal heart to our work. And when we're surrounded by people who give their heart to your work, it's really easy to find those individual synergies with people. And
all of the different sectors, whether it be health, animal welfare, I veterans, seniors, youth, it goes on and on and on. And then you add in all the different jobs you can have. I even think about myself. I did direct mail, I did a legacy giving, which I loved. I did major gift fundraising. I've done, I've done a myriad of different fundraising, monthly giving. Those opportunities, I think, may be a bit of a surprise to someone not in this sector. They're thinking, okay, you just need to ask for money and that's all you do. When really, truly, it's as varied as the number of organizations. And I think at the core, it's really about building strong relationships based on a common sense of interest and passion. And we do that in our everyday life. And when you find a career like in fundraising where you can talk about what you love, building relationships will come easy. And so everything else that can be learned, you can learn it. And you have an organization like AFP that can support you in that learning process. As long as that passion is there, then you would be successful. For sure. Can you picture yourself doing anything else? I don't imagine myself leaving because, like we just talked about, there's so much diversity. Every time I feel like I need a little bit of a change, then I just find another space. I worked in community-based fundraising, I've worked in political fundraising, and now I'm doing international-based fundraising. And so there is so many opportunities out there and so many worthy causes, and that's really what I'm looking for, so I don't imagine going anywhere else. Yeah, it's really great, and we talked about all the different opportunities, and having this chapter here in Ottawa has really been an important piece for me that I can go down to the Shaw Centre and go to fundraising day or head head to the NAC and go to the Phils, that it didn't feel so far away. It was in my hometown, and to your point, it felt like family. It feels like coming home in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we offer locally, I think, benefits from the full package that you get from what AFP Canada offers and what AFP Global offers. AFP Global provides a wealth of research and education opportunities that are tailored to your own specific career trajectory. And I think as a package, we're really strong, but we definitely do it right when it comes to the individual relationships with AFP Chapter.
I always love the whole analogy, if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got all these fundraisers that fundraise through the day, work their butts off, and then you're in the evenings or on the weekends you're volunteering for the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Like, it's kind of ironic that you're in love with it so much that you still want to invest into it.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes. I think I think we're really lucky that we work in a space where we do it for our day jobs, and then we leave and we go home and we do it someplace else. I think that speaks something really positive toward the work that we're doing.
And being part of the AFP board, I think as well, like there's another sort of level there where you get to see the inner workings and bring those best practices. We're going to be talking a little bit later with some of your friends about everything from fundraising day to education to the idea portion where it's all about equity. I think all of that, it just works really, really well together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really fortunate to work with an amazing group of individuals that contribute a lot to what the AFP chapter is for our community.
For sure. And give us the website. Where are we going to get all this great information, the calendar, and just, once again, I'm hoping today that we inspire somebody that maybe has never thought about this as a sector. Maybe we've inspired them today, and we're going to see them at our next event.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. If anyone's interested in learning more about how to get involved, there's really a diverse way to be involved. Simply go to afpottawa.ca and you can find a wealth of opportunities, whether that's becoming a member yourself, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And so not only by investing in yourself, you make your organization better, but you also make the important causes that you're fundraising for better too. And that's really the benefit to becoming a member. But if being a member you're not too sure about, then people are more than welcome to still join as a volunteer. Join a committee, because it's that diversity of voices that makes us even stronger. And we are always welcome and welcoming of people to join us at the table.
100%.
And then, if not, just join us at events, and we would benefit from their input and their synergy at the events that we have.
Thank you so much, Chelsea McClellan, joining us today. We're going to learn all about AFP fundraising professionals, and of course, that is the Ottawa chapter. Stay with us on An Hour to Give. And we're back on An Hour to Give, and it's such a thrill because I have a friend here with me, my friend Mark Savinkoff, representing Algonquin College and representing the Association of Fundraising Professionals here in the beautiful capital of Canada, in Ottawa. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. Good to see you again.
Great to see you. You wear so many hats in the community. I have to remember which Mark I'm chatting with. And tell me a little bit about the wonderful work you do with AFP.
We're really excited to serve on the AFP board as the Professional Development Chair, which really just means working with our members and our board volunteers to ensure that we're continuing to build that culture of philanthropy really across the city, leaning into all those amazing things that our organizations are doing, and of course always trying to think through what we can learn next, what we can do differently to help support those who need it most.
So I was thinking as I was preparing for today's show, I'm going to share a number with you. Are you ready?
Okay.
So I have been in the sector for 34 years this year.
That can't be true.
That can't be true.
That's amazing.
Let's just pause and think about that for a second. So 34 years, and how fundraising has changed over the last 34 years. I used to joke that 34 years ago, I could stand on Bank Street, take appeals for a homeless shelter, throw them to the wind, and something would come back. Those days are over, which is why we need AFP more than ever to teach us exactly what we should be doing to connect with donors to ensure that we're doing the work ethically, that we're doing it most efficiently and spending those dollars right. So talk to me a little bit about the education opportunities with AFP.
Well, I think, we're really fortunate to have so many different types of members as part of the AFP community. And so all of us, right, are really working with organizations in support of causes that are meaningful to us, if that's education, if it's health, if it's homelessness, if it's food insecurity, and, really finding that passion within us all. And at the same time, as an organization, how can we come together to elevate all of the good work of everyone? And so the diversity of the programming that we have from a professional development and education perspective really tries to mirror the diversity of the members that we have, both in terms of the topics that we offer for learning and for further discussion, as well as the way in which we offer it. So virtual as an example versus the in-person learning opportunities.
Amazing. And I think a lot of people may be surprised to hear, they might see me from a broadcasting perspective and not know that I participate in fundraising, and that I've been fundraising for 34 years in this community, both on local issues, of course, as well as national. But I'll tell you, when fundraisers ask to meet with me and they say, I'm just getting into the sector, or I've been in for 10 years and I need to be inspired, they always say, Sam, what's the secret sauce? What did you do? I always say it was AFP. It really has been the secret sauce for me, that I got all those education opportunities, but I also got this incredible group of friends.
Well, it's amazing. And I have to thank you for your leadership in this community and with AFP over the years. I can only imagine how those years fly by because of the good, fun work that you and others have really helped to do. So I think looking and reflecting through all of those opportunities to really understand, to your point, where we've come from, where we're headed, how we can all help move each other along. And I think, leaders like yourself and mentors like yourself in community are really what AFP is all about.
Yeah, and let me ask you, so this year when you think about the calendar for education, there's no shortage of ideas, I know that. So you put them all sort of together, see what's going to work for people. I know, for instance, I learned about monthly giving for the very first time when I went to an AFP session a long time ago. And I learned about legacy giving, and I learned about all of these different ways of fundraising. And I think that's one of the myths that I hope to bust today, is that fundraising is way more than just that $25 or $100 a year. It's really endless, to be honest.
I think there's a lot of complexity to the work. I think there's a lot of sophistication for the work, especially when it's done well. And we really all want to earn the right to ask for partners, for those donations, again, to have an impact. So when we reflect on the programming, even that we were able to offer last year, as an example, it was, really unpacking the movie Uncharitable. So we got an exclusive film screening of that months before. It was able to be offered in theaters based on Dan Pallotta's book. And it was really about understanding the concepts that are in that book, and in turn the movie, and then providing that opportunity for dialogue and discussion. So what do those spaces look like where we can come together, where we can learn, and as we can move forward?
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and I love that book, and I love the movie. It's fantastic. So that's great. And for those people that may think, okay, they're a fundraiser, they may not be part of AFP Ottawa yet. They're going to become a member. Inspire us a little bit, Mark, in terms of maybe what's coming up in let's say, February.
Sure. So we've got a few things that are on the books. Probably the next one would be a really special, unique event in partnership with the University of Ottawa, and it's around the intersection between happiness and generosity. So that's taking place on February 22nd. It's going to be hosted at the University of Ottawa, and it features a professor. His name is Dr. Charles Selen, and really his research is about that. What are the links and connections between happiness and generosity, which is something that's very accessible to all of us. It's
Absolutely.
very interesting, and this one is going to be unique for us in that it's going to be offered in French. So he is fluently bilingual himself, but again, as part of our diversity of offering through the educational programs, this one will be offered in French for all of our colleagues who are interested in coming out.
Well, that's fantastic.
Participating.
Give us a little sense of what's coming up in the year. Do you have that plan yet in place?
So I think what we're looking for is really a mix of, again, in-person and virtual events that seem to work really well for our members and those who perhaps were not members but were still interested in coming out. So for each of the opportunities, there's a chance for both members and non-members to attend. There could be a small difference in the fees, but we're really happy to have the support of Harvey McKinnon Associates as a sponsor for the series to help offset some of those costs and support the programming. And so when people take a look at the programming lineup, you'll really see that intersection of online, in person. Some will be very, I'd say, educational based as will the one in February, based on research, based on a lot of data, still done in a very lighthearted way, and others will more focus on the networking and receptions where we can bring people together in maybe more informal spaces, and at the same time provide those opportunities for colleagues to share and to learn from one another.
I've leaned on my colleagues over the years. So if I was working, let's say, for the Ottawa Hospital, for instance, and I came up with a kind of a quandary, I would phone a colleague that I met through AFP and say, how did you handle this? So those opportunities, and you might meet them at an educational opportunity, right? And say,
Absolutely.
I want to call up, hey, Mark, have you ever dealt with a legacy giving question like this? And that is also that fellowship that AFP offers.
I agree. So I think, the educational programming is both, I'd say, formal and informal. It's both the sessions that are offered, and it's also the spaces and conversations that are created during those sessions.
Yeah.
So absolutely encourage anyone who's interested, who perhaps hasn't had the chance to test one of them out before, to register, to come out, to see the type of atmosphere that's created. And absolutely, to your point, if they haven't been exposed to that type of camaraderie in the sector, I have no doubt that they'll be impressed with what they find.
I've done a lot of chatting about my benefits of AFP, but what do you see when you say you're a proud member of AFP and you're obviously very involved in the education piece? What comes to mind for you?
So I think it's two parts. I think it's the learning that we can all continue to do during our lifetime. I don't think any of us ever stop learning. Perhaps that's why I focused on the education sector during my career as well, in a few different ways. And I think then it's the contributions back. It's, as you mentioned, us giving back in our own way, and some of that can come through the networks that we create and the associations, so that we can really raise the funds and the awareness and the support for the causes that are near and dear to us.
Yeah, so it's so smart. And we know that the AFP website is a great resource. Is that where we're heading to register and all of those good things?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for those who are on our email list, you would receive direct email communication around some of the educational offerings that are coming up. So anyone can sign up for those. But at the same time, you're right, all the information is online. So if you do go to the main homepage, if you search AFP Ottawa, you'll find a professional development and events link, and that's where the events are coming up. So registration usually opens about a month or so in advance, and at the same time, for those events that are a little bit farther away, registration may not be open, but details about what's up and coming will be listed there.
And it really has created this community within a community of fundraisers. And what I find, and I think what I'm most proud of, is how we welcome newcomers to those sessions. And because we all know each other, if somebody walks in the room and maybe it's not someone we recognize, we're not shy to walk up to them and say, welcome to is this your first session, and how can we help you, and have you met Mark, and have you met Chelsea, and that type of thing. I think that's something that I'm probably most proud of, is how inclusive we are, and diversity is always at the forefront as well, that we want everybody at the table.
I agree, and I think it's a really safe space to ask questions of one another at the same time while we get to learn one another. So I think about one of the events that was offered last fall, and it was around integrating Indigenous ways of knowing into fundraising practices. That was a very intimate, genuine conversation where we all sat into a circle together and really came together with one another in that conversation to ask questions that perhaps people were a little shy or a little timid to ask. And I think it's spaces like that that are really important, perhaps now more than ever.
And I know we have the opportunity for future leaders, and I love that program. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But I think all that opportunity to say that if this is a second career, a first career, a third, fourth career for somebody, it doesn't really matter how you walk in that room. We just want you in the room.
Absolutely, and I think it's about relationships.
Yeah.
And all of us come to the work that we do from a variety of backgrounds, and I think what we all have in common is the relationships that we want to form with one another, with our organizations, and again in support of something that's just really important. So you're right, I think everyone comes to their organization, to their cause with a different perhaps set of skill sets, perhaps some different backgrounds, but there's some commonality we can find in that as we work forward together.
100%. You stole my line. It's all about relationships. That's what I say all the time. Because I think people think fundraising and they think about money, and it may be uncomfortable to ask for money. But I find, and I know you work at one of my favorite places, Algonquin, is that when you really believe in the work, you're just asking someone to come along on the journey and dedicate time, talent, and treasure. It's not about the money at all in the end.
I agree. I think it's about the partnerships that we want to have with and for one another in support of something that's just really, really important to us. I think that's where we do our best work. I think as a city and as the National Capital Region, that's how we've really come together to support a variety of really, really important initiatives. And I think that's something that we can look forward to even more in 2024 and beyond.
Beautifully said. My friend, Mark Savinkoff, joining us today. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here. I appreciate it very much. Mark, of course, you know him from Algonquin College, and you also know him from AFP Ottawa. Stay with us. We have more coming for you. The Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa, we're featuring them on An Hour to Give. And we're back. We're back on An Hour to Give. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We're learning all about the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Ottawa Chapter, which is my home chapter, I'm proud to say. I'm Sam Laprade, and we're learning all about this organization today. And Sophie Vauquier is joining us now. Hi, Sophie.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for having us, being here with us. Give us a sense, Sophie, a little bit about what you do during the day.
Yes, so my main core activity revolves around fundraising for the University of Ottawa. So I'm a development officer working essentially at the annual level and fundraising for 3 of our faculties, the Faculty of Education, the Faculty of Health Sciences, and the Civil Law section.
Amazing. So you're busy.
Yes. Yeah. 3 faculties to take care of.
Wow. And we hear from a lot of fundraisers that we're interviewing today. They're busy, but that doesn't stop them from volunteering with the AFP group, Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa. What's your role with this group?
Yes, so I've been involved with the Ottawa chapter as a board member, as an administrator for a year now. I'm mostly involved specifically with the Volunteers Committee around Fundraising Day. That's our big annual event, get together. And so I essentially help make it a success.
It's amazing. And I already have the date marked on my calendar, big circle, May 1st, because I'll be there. I was there last year, and I was starting to think today, because I've been in the sector for 34 years, I have probably been to more than 30. I might have taken 1 year off when I had my daughter, but I try to go every single year because it's so important to me, not only for the education, I'm there for the education, but I'm also there for the fellowship. Yeah.
And do you still find, some added value to your participation year over year?
100%,
Yes.
Sophie, because fundraising changes all the time.
Yes,
we think about just the technology side of fundraising and how that's changed things. We think about how the pandemic has changed our lives and all the different tools and ways that we can fundraise. Every single year, I always learn something. I always walk away inspired. And what I love about it, because we have it in May, is that it gears me up for that busy fall that I know is coming. I get all those great tools and strategies that I can actually apply to my job. So that's why it's so important to me.
Well, I'm just thrilled to hear that, and that's exactly why I decided to get on board, right? To learn about this amazing fundraising community that we have here in Ottawa. And every year we try to bring something different to the table, so every member finds something, that they're going to want to hear about and find that inspirational keynote that they want to, discover and hear further about and connect with, members, other members in the community.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. So what do you have planned for this year? I know the call for speakers is out right now, which is very exciting. So everybody gets to participate. Very important that everybody gets that opportunity to have their voice heard as well. So give us a sense. What do you have planned for the big year ahead?
Yes, indeed. So on May 1st, we've launched the call for speakers, as you mentioned, at the end of December. We're still, really considering new applications. We're hoping, to come in with a diversity of speakers this time around again. The theme for this year is New Voices, the Power of Inclusive Fundraising. So really, we're hoping to have a very big representation in the various voices voices at the table in all, whether people come from, smaller shops, whether they're coming from those big charities out there. We want to make sure that everyone has their voice at the table. So we're really looking forward to receiving applications from professionals in the field, and we want to cater to the needs, the professional development needs of all fundraisers, whether they're at the start of their careers or they're seasoned professionals, in the field. We want to come back this year with an executive track to enable those fundraisers who've been there, like you, decades in the profession, and we want them to still see a benefit to participating in fundraising days. So, yes, we're trying to really push for more applications, and people have until guest speakers, people who are interested in facilitating workshops, sessions, they have until the end of the month, January 31st, to submit their applications.
Wonderful. And I do think it's a great opportunity as well to go to learn, but also to have those, I always like calling them hallway conversations, because sometimes like I'll bump into a friend of mine and I'll be like, I've got this kind of dilemma and what do you think? And some of those hallway conversations or sitting beside someone you've never met at lunch and walking away and completely inspired. So it's about the people that day too.
So true. It is about that. It is about sharing expertise, best practices around how better inclusive we can make our profession, and it's about the networking, the people. Indeed, we're about, as fundraisers, I think there's one thing to remember. We're beyond the money. We're not just strictly about the money. We're about the people and the communities we're impacting through our work. So yes, indeed, it's about the people that we collaborate with and where we can build partnerships with, and I agree with you. To me, being new in the field and having been on the board for a single year, and this is only going to be my second year working and involved with the Volunteers Committee for Fundraising Day. What I got from my first experience last year was exactly that. It was so thrilling to see people reconnecting in person, especially because last year was the first time we were coming back in person, hosting, having the event in person after a couple of years of the pandemic. So it's all about the people. I think you got that right.
Yeah. All about the people, for sure. Your passion comes through, just so you know. We know how passionate you are, and I love that because, especially when someone's walking into that room for the very first time and maybe they've never been to fundraising day before. I love when I see someone I haven't seen before and just going up and saying, welcome, and what sessions are you going to? And I love how we've embraced everybody new as well. I hope you felt welcomed.
Of course, yes, yeah. Yes. I got, like I said, I was new. I'm still new in the field, right? I come from a counseling background, so to me, fundraising is still, I've been 3 years in the role of development officer, so I still got so much to learn, right? And when I noticed there was something out there for me as AFP Ottawa, I'm like, this is a perfect organization for me to learn about this industry, about fundraising, about how fundraising is happening beyond my employer, right? Beyond the University of Ottawa. How is fundraising practiced, right? Throughout the city, but throughout North America, even because AFP is so well connected. So it's a great inspiration for me as a young professional in the field.
And I think when we think about the private sector, the public sector, I think what surprises me most about our sector is that the ability and the willingness to share best practices. I think the two Coca-Cola company, or Coca-Cola and Pepsi, probably won't share their secrets, but we're all about sharing exactly how we've done a campaign to benefit and really lift other organizations about, because when the nonprofit, the charity sector is thriving, the community thrives.
Indeed. Yeah. No, it's so inspiring, your exact words. I think that's what drew me in the first place towards fundraising. I think I've always been about the people. The money component is something, but and it does take money to make some changes. At the end of the day, to create some impact. But I like to focus more on the people and the important role that we play and the impact we're going to create with, with the AFP on a everyday basis. Yeah.
So May 1st, you've got the call for speakers out right now. Then you'll all review them and look for all of those important aspects, the diversity, the variety, all of that. You'll put together a great program and then inspire people to come. And the value for what you charge, I've always said, I think it's really priced. I think you get so much out of that day. So inspire us a little bit in terms of when we can start to look for some of those details.
Yes, so hopefully we're pretty much ready to roll with the exact programming by the end of February. We're hoping to consolidate all that and have all the details posted on our website, and people can start and register early March. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect.
Yes.
So we can plan it out. And I know there's been some bursaries in the past. There's been some opportunities that way. Are those going to be offered again?
Yes, I do believe we'll come back with a stipend for some participants, because we are aware as a chapter that our members not only come from the big charities out there. There are also some community organizations that might not be as privileged and have the opportunity to send as many people as they would like to. So there is that stipend that is offered, and hopefully we'll be coming back this year. Yes, we're always looking for ways to sponsor the event as well, right? So if there's a sponsor out there who would like to contribute and make that event fundraising day even more accessible for all the professionals in our community, please feel free to reach out.
I love that. I love that. And it really does take a village. I know we use that phrase a lot, but the sponsors are so important for that day.
They are.
Obviously, the speakers, people attending, the organizing committee, because I know I've been on the committee, so I know how much work it is. So thank you for that, for sure. Any last words to inspire us to join you on May 1st?
Well, if you can convince your boss, or having trouble or some issues in convincing your superiors to let you go, just email me, personally, and it will be a pleasure to help you convince them.
I love that.
Yeah.
You've got an advocate on your side
for sure,
that
for
you're
sure.
working
Totally.
for sure. Well, fundraising day has certainly been one of the joys of my time with AFP Ottawa, and I look forward to everything that you're going to put together this year. I know you've got a great lineup planned, and getting all those submissions in will just make it even better. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. And Sophie Wellercourt joining us today. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on AFP Fundraising Day. Here we're talking all about that coming up on May the 1st. We're featuring the Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa today. I'm Sam Laprade. We're talking about all things AFP. Hopefully we're inspiring you. If you've thought about getting into the nonprofit, the charitable sector, well, this just might be your opportunity. Lots of great information on their website, so make sure you visit them as well. I'm Sam Laprade. This is An Hour to Give. We're coming back with more. Stay with us, everyone. It's all about AFP Ottawa today, the Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa Chapter. We're going to learn more from Julia Canning. Hi, Julia.
Hello.
Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your day job. What do you do throughout the day?
Well, I work for the University of Ottawa, Manager of Faculty Development, which is a big title for basically fundraising for science and engineering.
Amazing. There's lots happening in that sector for sure. But you still have time for AFP Ottawa and all the great work through IDEA. Tell me a little bit about when you refer to IDEA when it comes to AFP Ottawa. What are you talking about?
Well, I probably first should say what it means. Inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. Basically, as you can imagine, as fundraisers, we're frequently in a position where we are speaking for people who frequently don't have the same voice as others. So we need to be extra careful that we are representing the diversity of all people, that we are doing so respectfully, that we are doing so in a knowledge of that even the fundraising sector has a history which is not necessarily diverse. So as we move forward, we need to make sure that we are being diverse, we are being a welcoming space, we are being a safe space, and that all groups feel included.
Love that. Love it. It's so important. So give us a sense of your work. Where do you even start?
that was actually probably most of what we spent 3 years doing, was figuring out where to start. And I guess it started from understanding where we were at in terms of equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. So one of the things that we sort of built up to was doing an audit of the Ottawa chapter and finding out whether there were areas that we could grow, like where we stood in terms of equity and diversity, who made up our group, and what groups were underrepresented. And we found out a lot of areas that we were doing well, but also a lot of areas where we could be doing better.
Wow, that's great. So give us a sense then, is this about building a longer table and inviting more people to the table to have that voice? Is it about reaching out to maybe sectors that you didn't see represented at AFP?
Yeah, it's exactly that. That's a huge part of it. There's many different things. For example, a barrier to access can be just not seeing people like you who are part of the group, especially in leadership positions. So looking at, who are sitting on our board. Is there a need for greater diversity? Is there a need for EDI training? Are there specific groups where we should be sending ambassadors? Are there other barriers such as cost that are stopping people from participating? Perhaps we should have a sliding scale for membership so that people with lower incomes or smaller organizations can take part. This way we can reach more people, and more people can take on those leadership roles.
And when I think about, all of the different organizations in this city, it really is endless, the kind of work that's being done in this city. But some tend to have a bigger focus on them, from the media or from the community than others. So has it been a welcomed invitation? Have people sort of said, yeah, we'd love to be a part of AFP and be part of IDEA?
In terms of some of the actual outreach, I can't speak to every single group. We were looking at more areas where we could tear down the barriers. So I'm not sure we're at the point where we've had those same ambassadors going to groups that have been underrepresented. One of the areas that I know that we are now working with that group to do better is the Francophone community. It's one that we identified that was very underserved, but not because we don't have Francophones as part of AFP. We just don't have enough French content. So we are working to make that better. So we did have these people a part of us, they just weren't being served properly. And that's something that we can and are fixing. One of the events that's coming up on February 22nd will actually be held primarily in French. And
Amazing.
It's going to be held at U Ottawa.
Brilliant. See, it all intersects. It's fantastic. And so give us a sense of, at the end of the day, 5 years, 10 years from now, what are you hoping to have accomplished?
I guess what we would love would be a group where, if you look at Ottawa's the nation's capital, it's a diverse area, it should be a leader in equity, diversity, and accessibility. When you look at AFP and you look at who's in charge and who are on the boards, we'd like that to be a reflection of the people that make up the not-for-profit sector, which is a diverse sector. We would like some of the groups that were represented to be highlighted, those the ones that are equity seeking. So if there's a not-for-profit who's equity seeking, we'd love to see those highlighted by AFP. We'd love to see groups that are doing extraordinary work recognized for that. It would be just an area where everyone feels welcome, and that those who are doing astounding work to tear down barriers both at AFP and the rest of society are acknowledged and celebrated.
And we can do that through so many ways. I mean, I just think about the AFP Phils, the big Phils night. I love that night, the philanthropy awards, an opportunity to really welcome the community and to celebrate philanthropy. I think about it through fundraising day, the education opportunities. There are so many different vehicles in which to accomplish this. So that must be exciting that you have so much of this in place. There just needs to be ensure that everyone feels welcomed.
Exactly, and that was one of the things the audit found is we do have so many of these mechanisms in place. There's already a start. There's already a lot of our protocols and stuff are already EDI forward. It's just about making sure that we're actually doing all those things that are embodied in some of our in our charter, and that's why we are encouraging other chapters to also do an audit to just find those areas where you can strengthen the community. Strengthen the areas that you're inviting people to. It's just
100%. And once again, the Ottawa chapter being a leader. I mean, this isn't the first time where we've sort of taken an idea and we've shared it with other chapters in the province and other chapters across the country and globally. So it's just another example of that, to be honest with you, Julia, that Ottawa's leading the way.
And I'm actually quite proud of that. Like, I don't know if there are any other groups have done an audit. I know that Ottawa, if not the only, was one of the first. And one of the things I'm really happy to hear is the AFP Foundation will also be doing something somewhat similar to the whole charitable sector of looking at EDI in the whole charitable sector and finding out areas where different charities can grow and become more equitable. And I think it's such an important role for AFP to play.
And I think really, especially old gals like myself, been fundraising for a long time, that to realize that, people give in different ways in different cultures. How I would approach somebody in another culture may be very different for them, and it may not be as comfortable for them as maybe approaching somebody that I've worked with for years. So part of the education piece is also a really important part of fundraisers like myself going out and working with other communities, because many communities want to give, but sometimes that connection isn't there.
I could not agree more. And I think having more diverse representation, but also sometimes knowing who to go to when we create new policies and fundraising strategies, saying, here's someone where I can give this strategy to them, and they can look at how it could be changed to go over better with a different culture, to be more accessible, to be more heard, to be more inclusive. And I think as we learn more about who's at the table, who might want to be at the table but doesn't feel represented, we can make those changes.
Would you do anything else as a career? I mean, I've known you a long time. You've been fundraising for a long time. Is this just in your, as they say, your DNA?
I think it's something that if it's not my job, it will always be a part of who I am. Like, even in high school, I was that person who was off, like, can you give this money for this, or donate this for our silent auction. So I think that will always be a part of who I am. And I think it can be a part of who lots of people are. So I don't think it does need to be your career. I mean, obviously, AFP, it's fundraising professionals. But I do think it's something that if you're not a fundraising professional, it's something that you can do anytime with any group, and as a volunteer or as a professional.
And I think when we think of donors and how important, and we haven't really touched on this yet, but how important AFP is from a donor perspective, to know that there is this organization that's talking about best practices, they're talking about ethical fundraising, they're talking about equity. I think it's reassuring to donors to know that this organization exists, and we often ask them for time, talent, and treasure. But as fundraisers, we also, like you said, even if I wasn't in the fundraising sector, I would still feel like it's my duty to do time, talent, and treasure as part of community.
Exactly. I don't think I can add to that, Sam. That was just very well said.
Yeah, I think there's just part of the way that the community ticks is through philanthropy. And I think a lot of people think that means that you have to give enough to have your name on a building, and it doesn't. It doesn't. Talk a little bit about that, because I think it's important to know that not everything has to be $1 million gift.
Well, at least speaking from some of the, I've worked for a couple of different organizations. Going back to when I was working for CNIB, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, I saw people I saw those $1 million donors, right? And they had a huge impact. But I also saw people giving very small amounts, giving their time. I saw people giving up, entire, like, about 3 days a week to be a sighted guide and a friend for blind people, then also donating money and resources to make sure that we had vans to transport people around. At U Ottawa, I help found scholarships that are endowments that are over $1 million.
Wow.
But there's also some that are literally, I have $3,000 to spare. How can I help more students in need?
I love that.
And can I tell you which one has more impact? They both have huge impact. And for the students, it's both have huge impacts.
And you know, as we talked about, sort of building a longer table, inviting everybody to that table, and hearing the voices either through education. I know we spoke about fundraising day, having those calls for applications, that application out for call for speakers, so that people can have their voice heard. I love going and hearing about other people's experiences fundraising. It makes me a stronger fundraiser.
I completely agree. And one of the things we're looking to do is get more voices up there. I think one of the problems we sometimes fall into is we find a really great speaker who's a diverse person, and they can sometimes feel almost, you know, a bit tokenized, right? And it's just because we found someone that's such a great speaker and represents that diversity. But what we need to make sure we're doing is get different stories, different faces, make sure that it's not just that same, you know, person of color or that same Indigenous person, that we're going to broader out into their community, and maybe even asking them, do you know somebody from your community who could speak to this as well? So that we're getting some different faces and making sure that it's not just one person, because that way someone looking from the outside can see that yes, there's more than just one person. It's a community we're building.
For sure. And if somebody is thinking, you know, I didn't even know there was the idea committee, and you know, they didn't even know that all this existed, and they are part of AFP, can they still join in the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. Both officially by joining the committee, we would love some more members, and then also by contributing ideas to us. One of the things we're always building is input. What can we change? What can we do better? And who's going to be there with us to help us get that done? So if they're on another committee, maybe just reaching out and saying, what can we do on our committee to embody the ideas of IDEA?
Yeah, I love that.
A little bit more.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then then it becomes not just your committee, it's the mandate, right? I think it's the mandate of AFP to really put this in the forefront. That's brilliant. And so, I mean, once again, we talked about your fundraising career and how much it means to you. You speak so passionately about your work, but for those that can't even believe that fundraising is a profession, talk to them for a second.
It was funny because I was one of those people.
There you go.
I actually didn't know I was applying for a fundraising job. I thought I was applying to bartend at charity events when I first fell into fundraising as it was, but I loved it. So I had this moment where it was going up to strangers and talking to them about something I was passionate, and then if they were passionate about it, talking about how that they could contribute and make a difference. And I was like, wait a second, people will pay me to do this? And the not-for-profits I was working for was like, yes, please do it. We don't have the time. We have too much on our plate. If you're good at this, we need those people who are good at this, who are good at going up to people and having those really meaningful conversations. So for people who don't understand it's a career, I can't explain it other than it's a skill set of being able to speak to your passion, connect with people, and then use that connection you've made with someone and connect them with the organization you work for.
And you do it very well. You are excellent at it. So thank you so much, Julia, for sharing time with us today, talking about AFP Ottawa and, of course, the role of the IDEA Committee. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very much. I'm Sam Laprade. We spoke today about the Association of Fundraising Professionals here in Ottawa. If we've inspired you, reach out. I might just see you at an event coming up. Stay with us on An Hour to Give.